You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Talking Shop, where we get you all hyped about books that are currently in production, on the racks, or going to be on the racks this week or very soon. So we want to make sure that you guys know what you're doing and don't miss a single thing. We'll see you in just a second after these words. Everybody, and welcome back. We have got quite a lineup for you guys today. No matter which publisher you love, I'm sure that these folks have done things that you love from them. But up first, we're going to talk to Curt Pires, all the way from another side. Well, it's not really the other side of the world, straight up from where I am.
Yeah, I'm up in Calgary, Canada right now, so nice and cold, depending on where everyone's tuning in from.
So are you native to Canada or to the LA area or somewhere else?
No, actually, I grew up in Canada in Calgary. My dad's from Portugal and immigrated here when he was a kid, and my mom grew up in Vancouver, so I was Canadian on that side. And then I've just kind of spent a lot of time jumping around, just sort of for work, right? Where I come from, there's only a couple people who've really done what we're doing at the level we're doing. It's like Todd McFarlane, Fiona Staples, and me are really the three people who have made a living at this racket. So it's interesting, but yeah, you got to travel a bit to sort of carve a path.
Absolutely. So was your looks like your creative life is taking you kind of both ways, both writing and producing. What came first?
I would say the writing, to be honest. I think my passion was always really writing, specifically comics. I think is like the first language I learned to speak, and then I was always growing up also very into stuff like movies and video games and all this stuff. So as time's gone on, I've been lucky enough to sort of branch out and do some of that stuff. But really, I think all this just comes out of the comic stuff, and just sort of realizing there's so many producers and stuff, and even companies who want to sort of they take the creators' ideas and then they run off with them and try and really make all the money off it. I'm like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't seem that hard. I could probably do that. And so I think a big part of my job is just advocating for not only myself but also my collaborators. And as we've grown, I've been lucky enough to try and help and bring some other comic projects to sort of life. So we're helping some other creators right now take some of their stuff out and really just like champion comics and stuff I dig and believe in.
I know that is something that I'm sure that a lot of creators are super thankful for, because it is kind of that great unknown. Like most people just out there in the world wouldn't have the beginning of an idea of how to take something that's their own creative property and how you would present that to Hollywood in any kind of way. So that you're taking care of them in that process is, I'm sure they're super thankful for.
Well, I'm trying that element of it. We're just really starting out, but it's sort of like I have to learn all this stuff on my own the hard way. So my sort of philosophy is like I can help some of the creators whose work I dig out in a way that's mutually beneficial. Like, why wouldn't I? As opposed to letting them having to learn all these hard lessons that I've sort of learned over the years.
Mm-hmm. So did you do any like classes or schooling or any of those kinds of things to get you ready for this part of what you're doing, or is this really just out of necessity you learned how to do those things?
It's kind of more out of necessity. Like I did go to college. I have a degree in bachelor's degree in political science, and so I kind of like would skip a lot of classes to try and like do the writing stuff. So it's kind of like moonlighting a bit, and on top of having to work part time and all this stuff. But I don't know how much that actually helped me, to be honest. I think most everything I learned on my own, or
Mhm.
just I've had a few mentors, and my dad was pretty smart at business and stuff, so I think I learned probably the most from him, just in terms of sort of work ethic and hustling, right? Because sort of came over to Canada as a immigrant, not speaking English and stuff, and he worked pretty hard and built a nice life for himself, and by extension me. So I sort of really picked up on that sort of hustler culture he sort of tried to embed in us.
Mhm. It's awesome to have had someone to kind of inspire you and lift you up into that. That's amazing to have, especially a family member that could be somebody that encourages that and is a good, it kind of like shows you the way. It's so awesome.
Absolutely.
Um, okay, so it's it's a very interesting kind of dynamic to be working out of both places. Um, I'm sure that Hollywood looks a lot different than Calgary does for maybe the movie and TV scene. Is it true, or it's the same? Doesn't matter what side of the border.
Well, I mean, they shoot a lot of stuff here now. Like they just finished shooting the Last of Us TV show. They shut down a bunch of downtown Calgary for all last year. So they shoot a ton of stuff in Canada, but in terms of the business side of everything, it is still heavily centralized, sort of. I would say really in LA, but I
Mm-hmm.
think uh, because of the pandemic and everything, we're moving towards a more space where people are doing, most of their meetings on Zoom and all that stuff. So I think it's kind of hopefully making it easier for people to sort of break in and have that sort of uh, accessibility. But I guess we'll really have to see how it shakes out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think probably just me as a layperson, that my first time I can remember hearing about Hollywood working out of probably Vancouver was for the X Files. I don't know if that was the beginning of it, or if it had always had a really rich, um, you know, collaboration with Hollywood, or if that was like, oh, come on out here, there's like really really beautiful, natural backdrops.
Well, it's like that. It's like they shoot a ton of stuff out in Toronto. A lot of it, they shoot Toronto for New York, right? It's just kind of a lot of it has to do with our dollar, right? Where the Canadian dollar is weaker than
Ah,
the US dollar. So it's sort of far, far back. They've, jumped over here to shoot stuff.
absolutely. Well, let's talk about some comic book stuff.
Yeah, the
So
fun.
yeah, it's the fun part. Um, so people will probably recognize your work. Some good titles: Pop, Fiction, Tomorrows, and This Damn Band. Um, but the one that we are really excited about right now is the Only Teenage Wasteland that's been running from Dark Horse. Um, it's such a unique storyline. I love storylines where it's like kind of like youth thrown into crazy situations where they just have to figure themselves out. Kind of like what's the farthest place from here, and four kids walk from a bank, or four kids. Sorry, I've got a cold head. I know you can tell, but
I think everyone's sick right now, so it's okay.
everyone I talk to sounds the same, so I never know if it's my ears or stopped up. Yeah. So what was your inspiration for Only Teenage Wasteland?
Yeah, I mean, I was just fascinated with sort of combining, uh, comedy storytelling and sort of the teen movie stuff uh, with like a genre twist and sort of throwing that into the deep end. So I think the stuff you mentioned before, like what's the furthest place from here and Four Kids Walking a Meg, I think are both great examples of that. So I sort of want to do something a bit in that vein, and this is my version of what that kind of story looks like. So it starts with this high school party and this group of friends, and then very quickly shifts gears and sort of take them to all these different places that are just a lot of fun and I think ripe for drama.
Absolutely. And we're at issue, is it 4 that's this week?
No, so we've just actually number 2 just came out. Well, it's either out this week for some places got it last week. It's all the holiday shipping was kind of all over the place because of the blizzard, but number 2 should be out this week and 3 and 4 out monthly after that.
I bet you anything that we have more than one beautiful cover. And so my brain just read that as being different issues. So
Okay.
they look really, really cool. So how long is this slated to run, or do you have hopes for it to be ongoing, or do you have this story definitely has a big climax?
So like I think the plan for now is our first arc is going to be 4 issues, and then we do have more story to tell. So I think we'll probably come back with a follow up miniseries when the time is right. But for now, we're sort of focused on landing this first 4 issue arc and sort of approaching it a bit like I guess like Hellboy, right, where it's all these continuing miniseries telling one sort of ongoing story. But definitely have a big finale in mind for this one.
Oh, I'm excited about that. It's like this is totally my jam. So
I really
love knowing that they're not just like, I don't know. This kind of series could be an ongoing, a long story arc telling, but it just feels like there's so much at risk that there has to be a big payoff, right?
Yeah, I think like hopefully I'd like it to go for at least like 12 issues. I think it could go longer. But as it's just a matter of, always want to leave people wanting more kind of is better than to overstay your welcome. So I was trying to be like super cognizant of like if we're gonna keep it going, we gotta have, a lot of story to tell. So I think at least 12 issues, if I have it my way, is how long we run for.
Perfect. Fill everybody in on, we got kind of the pitch for what the book is about, but introduce some people to some of the characters that they might fall in love with.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, it's about this group of 4 friends. The lead characters is this character named Hobby, who's sort of struggling with his sexual identity, or just sort of figured himself out. And basically when his parents are out of town, he decides to throw a party so him and his friends can become cool and sort of climb the social ladder. And when they're at the having their party, sort of everything goes wrong, and there's a big bright flash, and in the middle of their party the world ends. And so we sort of go from there and tell the story of these teens trying to survive at the end of the world and trying to figure out this big mystery. So sort of like to describe it as like something like Superbad meets Lost. So it's got big fun genre mystery stuff, but also just sort of funny, lighthearted humor.
I mean, is the mystery trying to figure out what caused the end of the world?
Yeah, exactly. So they're trying to figure out what caused the end of the world, also like why they survived it, and sort of as we keep going, there's all these sort of breadcrumbs they pick up on, and they start slowly but surely figuring things out.
So are you a big fan of the mystery genre?
Yeah, I when it's done well, I definitely am. Like I name check Lost there, and that's definitely one of I think my favorite TV shows of all time. Even though I know the ending's a bit divisive and everyone's got
Mhm.
their opinions on it. I think it was such a a journey they took everyone on, and really just a remarkable sort of show along the way. So it's one of my I think touchstones for a book like this in terms of really going on a journey with the characters and balancing uh, character work and sort of the humanist drama with the big science fiction mystery stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I just stumbled upon a cool series that who knows, maybe it's been out long enough that everybody knows about it, but it has this kind of feel where it is a mystery. I liken it probably the most to like Twin Peaks. It's called Three Pines, and
Oh,
it's
okay, yeah, it's on Amazon.
hmm yeah, it's really well done in that the way they've laid out the series. There's a big overarching mystery that they're trying to solve, and then they have these mini mysteries that and they all happen in and around the town of Three Pines. And those mini ones are usually two episode arcs that somehow they've made it. You know, you're watching a 2 episode arc, but you know that it really does tie into the bigger mystery and pulls in different characters from other ones. I love those kinds of storylines that you're like, you can get really invested in the characters. Like I think that these 4 characters we're gonna be like that, where it's okay maybe to pick one and identify with them.
We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, they make it out alive.
Yeah, I mean, you probably will tell me the same thing. All my favorite writers do that. The first rule of writing is you kill what they love. So I'm sure something's gonna happen.
Uh, I'm a, I'm a bit soft. I don't really like killing characters unless I have like a really good reason for it or the story really needs it. But yeah,
Mhm.
you definitely have to be able to kill your darlings, the way they say.
Yeah. All right. So I also you were talking about it a little bit earlier that you were working on one of your other creative efforts. Um, uh, I I don't know whether it was a comic first or if it's going straight to being developed. It was with Comixology Amazon, a thing called Youth. What is that
Yeah. So
about?
so youth is a series I've been doing at with both Comixology and Dark Horse. So it comes out first via Comixology Originals, but the trade's available from Dark Horse, and Volume 2 is actually out, I think, end of this month. But it's about a bunch of sort of teenagers who were on the road partying and getting into trouble, and they get hit with a meteor, and they all sort of develop superpowers.
Ooh.
So it's basically like, what if it's my take on the teenage superhero thing, which is basically like teenagers are the worst people who could get superpowers. So like they get their powers and they're doing the worst stuff. They're getting drunk. They're getting into these big fights. They're trying to, rob banks, get money, do all this stuff, and so it really sort of flips the teen superhero story on its head. And so yeah, that one, uh, I would say people just like check it out in trade, right? Because uh, as great as it's been working with Comixology, for me, it's like super important that everything's available in print, right? So I'm excited that we got this first trade out, and then in January 26th we have Volume 2, and Volume 3 will be out around this uh, on Comixology around the same time. So we've been working on this book for a while. We're also working on this show, and I think it's just like a hopefully a really fresh take on the superhero stuff that people seem to be responding to.
Yeah, it's one of those tough genres, honestly. Because what we see a lot is that that's what kind of for our customers is like to talk them into anything that isn't the big two. For superheroes is this weird psychological game we have to get them over, where they feel like they've spent all of their budget for superheroes, even though they will buy a great many independent titles that are not superheroes. So it's not an actual shortage of dollars. We just have to
Well,
get
it's
them.
like they want the. I would say it's like they want when they're buying the superhero stuff, they want like the name brand, right? It's like people buying Coke or Pepsi products over the no name stuff. So I definitely get it, but this is so different. It's more of a it's independent thing, and it's just as much about the kids getting drunk and doing all this stupid stuff as it is them blasting lasers out of their eyes. So I think that's where we really got a lot of our audience and fans from, is just from how sort of refreshing it is, because I find and part of the inspiration behind the book was how one note superhero books can be, right? Like the
Mhm.
Teen Titans are teenagers, but they never seem to do anything that veers off of the sanitized like DC Comics agenda, where it's like if actual teenagers get superpowers, they're fucking crazy and they're confused and they're horny and they're doing all this terrible shit like normal teenagers do. So that was sort of the really idea behind the book, and what people like about it is sort of how messed up things can get in it and how rough around the edges it is. So I think that's what
Mhm.
appeals to me about telling the story, but also what people seem to respond to about it.
Yeah, I think maybe people have opened up a lot to it with the advent of things like Boys and Invincible and all those kinds of things. Are like, oh, well, these are superhero storylines that are a much more graphic look at
Exactly. Yeah.
what would be.
I definitely say like fans of Invincible or The Boys would sort of dig on youth, because it's sort of subversive and violent in a similar way. Uh, but yeah, I think it's cool that we're getting stuff like uh, Invincible and all this stuff, because the the mainstream superhero stuff's great too. Don't get me wrong. I really like when they let creators sort of do their thing and tell these really great stories, like Scott Snyder's The Court of Owls stuff, or uh, what Jim Lee did on Batman, or there's so much cool stuff, the Frank Miller stuff, but it's like we need just new ideas and new stories. So you just got to take a chance sometimes and try out some new books.
Oh, yeah. Do you find yourself when you're talking to Hollywood about stuff that they push back a lot? They're like, that's that's been done, that's been done, or are they very open to variations on themes?
It really just like depends who you talk to. I mean, it's just like I'm trying to think of the most positive way to say this, but about like 90% of people in Hollywood have no idea what they're doing. I'd say it's the same way. I say it's the same way in comic publishing. To be fair, 90% of the people are just like don't know what they're doing. The editors and stuff. So you have to be the. I'm an arbiter. I consider myself an arbiter of good taste. So it's my job to advocate for and show them the light, the path to this good stuff. But it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah, I've heard that lots of times that like the job of editing is like way, way understated, that it can make all the difference between a really great book and an okay book.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you have any other projects that are upcoming that you are allowed to talk about?
Yeah. So we just announced it, but we've got a new series launching at Image Comics at the end of March called uh, Indigo Children. It's going to be a new ongoing series. We've already got it. We're already working on a feature film adaptation of it with a producer who's doing the film of Alan Wake. Sifu, and used to work with Guy Ritchie, so he's jumped aboard that one, and we're building that out as a film. But really, our focus is launching this comic at the end of March with Image, and it's called Indigo Children. It's sort of, we like to say it's like Stranger Things if David Fincher directed it. So it's this big mystery about these kids who demonstrate these supernatural abilities and like genius intellects, and then they all sort of go missing. And so this journalist is going around and trying to find them. So it's a really good book for people who like Radiant Black meets Department of Truth. So sort of like if you sandwich those two books together, that's sort of what we're trying to hit on. But we'll be bring that to everyone at the end of March. So hopefully, if you've liked Teenage Wasteland or any of the other stuff, you'll check that out.
Oh, it totally sounds like my jam. I love that stuff so much.
I'll make sure to send you early copies of it.
I would love it. My goal always is with advanced copies is to try to give quotes back or reviews, and I apologize if I ever fail in that regard.
Oh no, I think you're one of the only people who messaged back on the on the email I sent the day before it was on order cutoff. Yeah.
I think that people have this bad habit of looking at an email, saying in their brain, yes, I'm going to do that, but never telling the person who sent the email that it is being acknowledged as being received.
Honestly, like I get it. There's I'm one of probably 20 emails that the shop owners are getting from the creators or whatever, the books that are on order cutoff. So I can understand not everyone being able to get back. My hope is just when you make something cool, you want to just like flag it for the retailers, and we've worked really hard on this and done stuff to hopefully make it easier to sell, and just like we're sort of in this together. So I just try and always send that stuff out.
Oh, absolutely. And things like this definitely help because, even if people we don't have as many people alive, we put this out there and it gets watched over and over again. So hopefully it'll inspire someone to go back and find them, even if it's, a year from now, even that they can go and find the individual issues or be inspired to go and hunt down youth in trade so they can read the whole series.
Exactly.
All right. Where is the best place for people that are interested to follow you on social media, or do you have a website that's the best place?
I would say just follow me on Twitter. I'm still on Twitter. It's just my first name, last name. I try and post everything there when we announce stuff and we have news on anything. That's really the only social media I do. I'm kind of trying to move as far away from social media as I can, but still have to do a little bit of it to let people know the books are coming out. So just follow me on Twitter, and if you want updates on the books and stuff.
Perfect. It probably makes sense. Probably if you don't have all your time being spent on social media, it probably means you're making awesome books for us to read.
That's the goal.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you get to stay nice and warm up there. Hope the weather's turned nice.
You for having me, guys, and thank you for supporting the books. Hopefully you can push through that cold and get feeling better, because I know everyone's sick right now, myself included. So
I think we all just tried to make it through the holidays, and now our bodies are betraying us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for the first half of Talking Shop. Don't go anywhere, though, because after this break, we're going to get to talk to Rob Guillory and all about their cool book that's releasing this week, Mosley. See you after the break. Thanks, Curt.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
Get the inside scoop on everything happening at the experience every week. Join our mailing list by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen and then watching your email inbox.
Hello, my name is Afrim Jambalai, writer and creator of The Legend of the Night Owl. You are watching The Experience.
By the way, for anyone that's just thinking to themselves, that is the most awesome shot that has ever happened on the whole of the experience. That shot with Afram doing his nunchucks is a one-shot thing. He did all of that in one shot and managed to talk and do his super cool jaw. That was all at New York Comic Con, I believe, this year. So if you ever see me out and about at the con near you, hunt me down and we'll make a little push like this so you can, prop up your cool books. Even if you're just a regular fan of the show and you want to pop on and say, hey, we love all of you guys that are a part of us, of our group. Please give thumbs up and hearts. Tell your friends so they can follow and enjoy all of the programming we have, including this show, Talking Shop, which gets everybody all hyped up about the books that are coming to the local comic shop near you. If you're looking for a local comic shop, you just moved and you don't know where to go, you can use previewsworld.com or comicshoplocator.com to find a local comic shop near you very easily. You just need the zip code where you are. All right, everybody, welcome to our show, Creative Team of Mosley. It's coming out this week from Boom Studios.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
Doing all right. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing good, and I'm sorry that if I'm either too loud or too quiet. I have a head cold, so my ears are stuffy, so I can't tell if I'm screaming at people or whispering.
Okay. Yeah, well, you're good. I can hear you clear. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you guys look awesome.
Cool. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going? Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
So Rob usually is talking to us right out of Lafayette, Louisiana. Are you there today?
Yep, I'm here.
Nice. Born and raised. You guys.
Yep.
Not that far from us here in Houston. Doesn't take that long to get over. You guys.
Yep.
Not that far from us here in Houston. Not long to get over.
Oh.
You'll just have to turn me down unless you want to hear me twice. All right. So you might recognize Sam Lotfi from his work on Last Stop on the Red Line for Dark Horse, which was a really awesome series, but is currently working on Mosley with Rob. I got to read an advanced copy of it, and I am so in love already with this series. I don't even know how to explain it to you because you guys have managed to make me have deep feelings for this one dude.
Almost.
Up against, just seems like he got the shaft.
Yeah, that's what we were going for. He's a super grumpy, super lovable guy. I fell in love with him through issue 1, and I wasn't really expecting it.
Yeah, he's just like you write characters all the time that we fall in love with. Like I love every single person that's part of Farmhand. I mean,
cool.
I'm super excited for. I mean, I know that for a little while you took a break from Farmhand, and it might be a break right now. You've been working hard on getting that developed for, I believe, TV. Is that still going, or is Pandemica made it all crazy?
Oh, it was always. So I first spent the entire pandemic working on the Farmhand pilot, and long story. Hollywood's a hot mess. It was a cool experience. I ended up writing the entire pilot script, And right as I time to get AMC completely shifted their entire creative situation. I think the president of the AMC left. So Farmhand TV show is not going to happen, sadly. But the comic is still going. I just finished trade 4 just came out a couple months back. So I have 1 trade left, so 5 issues left. So that'll be coming out later in this year.
Well, I hope honestly that it finds a home somewhere, because I was really, really looking forward to people getting to experience this like very, very unique storytelling. I mean, like, I don't know that I can say Farmhand is like any other book.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're like, if you like this, you'll like that. Because Farmhand's literally about a family that somehow has figured out how to grow body parts. And then they're, all heck breaks loose later on. But just the whole concept of, being able to grow a replacement eye for somebody as a plant that doesn't get rejected by their body, it just seemed like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's funny. I always think of Farmhand as a story that kind of starts light and gets darker the longer it goes. But I was looking back through issue 1 today, and it was pretty dark from pretty much from the beginning. But yeah, it's a really intense story with some bright spots. Yeah, I'm super, super happy with it. I really I think as a storyteller, as an artist, I kind of came of age on Shoe. And as a writer, I think I've definitely come of age on Farmhand. And Mosley is sort of the best of me as a writer, I think. So I'm super proud of it.
All right, my last follow-up question on Farmhand is just me being nosy. Did you do a lot of like looking into like the scientific background of that, or you were like, screw it, it doesn't matter anyway because I'm going to still have them grow ears on trees?
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of, a lot of Farmhand was influenced by a lot of science fiction I had kind of, came across growing up, and then coming into, I would run across random news articles about, different kinds of scientific cloning and things they were doing over the years. And, then the idea of the body part plants came to me, and I started doing some research, and there were actually some experiments going on with using plant cells for like body part grafts, but it was like skin grafts and that sort of thing.
Right.
Nothing quite as crazy and as intense as Farmhand is, of course. But after I started making it, I think the first trade had come out, and I got approached by a guy who works at a genetics lab. And he was like, hey, I'm a big fan of Farmhand, great job doing the research, because we're actually working on some of this stuff now. And I said, wow, okay. So he ended up becoming kind of like my scientific guy on the book that I would just send stuff to and say, hey, what are you guys working on? And he would just send me back these slideshows that they were presenting at different conferences. And it's sort of interesting and creepy at the same time how I don't want to say Farmhand is prophetic, but it does seem like they are working on things very close to the book. Like I think the newest thing was they had figured out a way to make a mammal who is able to photosynthesize. It's a really creepy, seems like a bad idea to me. But that's a thing that's going on. And apparently Farmhand is very similar in some creepy ways.
You're gonna have a Michael Crichton moment when you're like, oh man, now they're growing stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the Ian Malcolm always.
That's totally it.
Yeah.
Sam, give everybody kind of your background in comic art. Have you always been in the comic part of art, or do you have a different kind of art background?
It's kind of a mishmash of everything. I started out in comics, and then I moved over to animation and video games and graphic design work for years, and just doing odd jobs here and there. But I just eventually grew tired of that and wanted to come back to comics, because it's the best place that I love to work, and it's the most creative outlet for me personally. It's where I feel like I have the best creative expression, the opportunity to express myself the best way. And there's nothing wrong working in animation or games and stuff, because that's a lot of fun too. But it's very much a team effort, very much a factory type of setup where like you're handed one thing, you do your job, you hand it off to the next person, and that can be satisfying in its own way. But after a while, it just wasn't my cup of tea any longer. So I was like, I need to get back into comics, and so I've been focusing on that entirely since then. And I still every once in a while still do some character design work and stuff here and there, but for the most part, focusing on comics. And Rob and I met years ago at cons and stuff, and so we would just always talk here and there, and we were just kind of pitching projects and ideas back and forth together. And we had a couple of ideas from him before that didn't pan out, but then he reached out and contacted me about Mosley, and I'm like, that's perfect. Older guy who's kind of fed up with technology and machines and wants to smash the tech gods down. That sounds perfect to me.
Oh yeah. Are you a practical artist? Are you a brush and ink person, or are you traditionally like a digital artist?
Both. If I'm doing animation and character design work and stuff, that's usually digital stuff because there's usually a lot more heavily revised work there. But when it comes to comics, I tend to just kind of lay everything out digitally, and then I'll scale that up, blow it up, and print that out on this guy here, and I'll pencil and ink traditionally. I enjoy the tactile feel I have on the paper and the happy accidents that happen with the ink. And that's not to say that all the new amazing Photoshop brushes out there aren't amazing. They're great, but unfortunately, they kind of duplicate the same results every single time. Whereas with a real brush, you're going to get various, varieties of, results that way. So
I'm guessing what you're telling me is that you used traditional methods for Mosley.
Yeah, definitely.
So I love that. I've been getting pretty sad. I'm kind of like a child of the 90s in comics, when you used to be able to go to conventions and there'd be stacks of tables full of original art. You could go and, even if you couldn't afford it, you could at least look at it.
Yeah.
Recently, I've found myself being like, man, I'd really love to own an original page from a thing, and then realize they don't exist. And so,
yeah. That's if you go to Heroes Con or cons like that around there where it's just mostly more focused on artists. I mean, last time I was at Heroes Con was a few years back, and I just remember seeing a lot of my art heroes and looking through their pages and just jaw-dropping moments. But I was just happy to see a lot more original art at shows like that.
Oh, absolutely. But then I also like my digital art too.
Nothing wrong with it.
Oh yeah. All right. Okay. So Devin Kraft has done an awesome thing. Thank you for being an awesome viewer. Has written down some questions here for Rob. What themes or ideas started the kernel of what became Mosley? Great question.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think some of the earliest books I read that I really remember as a kid were like books like Frankenstein. Got a little older. Jurassic Park came out. So this idea of science gone bad has always kind of stuck with me, and I've always been I don't know if I was naturally skeptical about tech. Like, I'm not anti-tech. I have all the gadgets and everything, but there's always been a part of me that's a little like, humans don't have the best track record of knowing when to stop. So I've always been a little skeptical, and that obviously came out in Farmhand as well. But I think Mosley kind of originated from a place of really, really just kind of being fed up with it. And, I have young kids. I have 3 kids, and they're all like, I knew there'd be lots of challenges raising kids. I just never really expected how technology would be such a thing I would have to grapple with. Like it didn't hit me till my son was 2, my oldest was 2, and he reached for my phone. And I thought, oh man, I hadn't thought about, that hurdle, that obstacle. So I think Mosley kind of came out of that frustration of, crap, like I'm trying to protect my kids, raise them well, teach them the right things. And I have to contend with this technology that's kind of sometimes wants to bring in this stuff that I really do my best to keep out. So Mosley kind of arose from probably a really frustrated moment of crap. Like I kind of hate this stuff. I kind of, if I had my way on a bad day, I'd probably just break it all. And then it just, the idea just came out of that. It was a purely a guilty pleasure kind of thing where I just thought, man, like what if tech did get out of hand? And what if there was a guy whose entire gig was just destroying tech? Who would that guy be? And, immediately I thought, oh, it'd probably be like a simple guy, like a janitor or something. And it just kind of morphed from there. It started out sort of as a joke. And then when I got into it, there was a lot of meat to it. And especially when I started writing Mosley, the character of Marvin Mosley, the protagonist, the more I got into him, the more I saw, man, there's a lot here. There's a lot of soul here that I wasn't really expecting. So it just grew from there and became sort of an epic tale. So by the time Sam kind of came on board, I had a pretty good feel for, yeah, this is going to be a big like Odyssey epic, which honestly, I didn't even pitch Boom this. I mean, what I pitched Boom was literally janitor smashing tech with a hammer. was what I pitched Boom. So, and then I think what I gave them was a lot bigger and richer than they expected, thankfully. And then, of course, when Sam came on board, it became even bigger than I could have imagined.
Yeah, the world just looks so well thought out, and it's like things that I wouldn't have thought of in general. Like I'm thinking specifically about, to not be spoilery, later on you meet a character that's fully embraced tech that just is a brat. And it's like it's like perfectly designed to let you know I'm a brat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did see a lot this Christmas specifically, people coming into my store, adults coming into my store saying, can you give me anything to keep my kids' head out of the screen?
Yeah.
They didn't have any other parameters really, just anything to keep my kids off screen. So yeah, I can understand that. Like, and so that makes it a very big touchstone for anybody that'd be interested in reading the series, is because we're all thinking the same thing. Like, how much screen time is too much screen time for a developing brain, right? And probably for us too. Who knows, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. There was a question for Sam that also was asked. What are some of your favorite things that influence the design of the world of Mosley? Ooh, another good question.
That's a good question. Honestly, like the main two that I'm not a huge tech guy when it comes to art and stuff. I usually tend to kind of lean towards more fantasy or horror, visual aspects. But when it comes to tech, I tend to I like to simplify things, and use more organic shapes if I can. So two of the big influences in that area, and you may or may not notice it in the work, but just as far as the thinking process goes and inspiration for it, or Jack Kirby's work. Anytime you're doing kind of tech like that, I mean, I appreciate the fact that he just went back to fundamental basic shapes and just took the complete total advantage of them, because I mean they're absolutely noticeable. It's the first thing you notice, circles and triangles and cylinders and all that stuff. They're simple shapes, but you look at them and they're eye catching, and he did a lot with that. And so I just thought, what, if it's good enough for Jack, good enough for me. So I'll play with that. And also one of my favorite mangas is Akira, with Katsuhiro Otomo's work and all the tech there as well. So that's on the other end of the extreme, which is extremely detailed and stuff. So it's just kind of, those are the two inspirations I just took. I was like, one far is very simple, the other far end is extreme. So I was like, I'll try to land somewhere in the middle with all that, and let that just kind of percolate in my brain.
Looks like one of our producers had to be the IT guy for 3 days for their family. I'm sure that happens. Like if your family knows that you know how to your way around technology, and you're all getting together, they're probably grandparents, etc. are like, I don't know, this thing doesn't work for me. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So the thing that the thing that always makes me super invested in a character is the thing that you built into this character, Rob, which is it's not really the conflict for himself necessarily. It's this long drawn out conflict that looks like it's been going on that's related with his family. Like anytime you can bring family into it and really put that, like you can see the pain in his eyes that he just like, he's at odds with himself and his family member about this. You've written this well in other books too. Where do you go in your head for your headspace for those kinds of like the pain that we can all identify with?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Yeah, I mean, they're both sort of, I mean, with Farmhand and with Mosley, they're both sort of different areas. There's two different sides of the same coin. So with Farmhand, like I've said before, with I worked on Chew for 8 years, and during that entire time, a lot of life happened, and we had all three of our kids during that time. 8 years of our marriage happened during that time. So I came out of Chew a very different person. I went into it, and I just had all this life had happened. People had died. People were born. All this stuff happened. I needed a place to kind of deal with it. And of course, having kids again, sort of makes you look back at your own childhood in a different way. Mm-hmm. It recontextualizes everything. So with Farmhand, I was dealing with that. I was dealing with trauma in that kind of way, things I grew up with and that sort of thing. And with Mosely, what surprised me about Mosely, like I said, it started out, it was going to be my action adventure book. It was going to be this light thing. Oh, he's just going to run around smashing and getting in fights and this sort of thing. And then when I started writing him and letting him speak, I started wondering, where is this coming from? Like, why? He was just talking about his family and all the things he's lost and all the things he regrets and all this frustration and bitterness. And I stepped back from it and I started thinking, okay, if every character is sort of, as a writer, if every character is sort of a piece of you, like, who is this guy? Where is he coming from? And I think Mosley's the guy that, I think we all have baggage. We have things we've seen or done in our life that we sort of regret. And we all kind of, I think, at least for me, I've had moments where I've kind of like looked into the abyss and it sort of changes you. Mm-hmm. And you look back at it years later, you're like, man, I'm kind of different now than I was before I did. And am I going to be okay? And that's Mosely. Like, Mosley's a guy who made some choices at some point 30 years ago in the story, and it affected everything. It completely ruined the world, his own personal world, but also the broader world. And he's left in this place of wondering, can I get back? Am I going to be okay? So the entire story, though it is about tech and all of this stuff and action and all this, it's really about this poor guy, who I think he's all of us to some degree. Like, we've all been through something, and we're all kind of looking at ourselves in our quiet moments, like, am I going to be okay? like, am I really going to be okay here? So the story is Mosely. It's a redemption of Marvin Mosely, really. And I just love the story. I connect with it on such a deep level. And I hope people get something out of it.
Well, I know I definitely do. That's honestly one of the parts of the story with the scripts. When I was reading through the scripts, that really, piqued my interest the most was the character of Mosely and his journey and that struggle. So one of the most fun challenges for me doing the visual side of creating the world is trying to get those silent moments and also those really deep moments that he has, the relationship moments he has with his daughter and wife, and even when he's just looking in himself and trying to get that character acting out onto the page as best I can. That's been a challenge, but also one that I've been really looking forward to and having fun with whenever there's a chance to do a close up of Mosely or just really get a good look into his eyes and just try to really display that window as wide as I can so people can hopefully feel something when they look at his face.
Yeah, you did such a good job then, because the emotional beat that I'm thinking of is like the one in any good real tale where your hero makes a promise or makes an absolute statement, right? That is going to be something they can't keep that, and it's going to be the thing that they're always battling against. And the way you portrayed it was a very quiet moment. There wasn't a lot happening in the background. It was just like you knew that was the important thing to pay attention to, so you weren't distracted by the fact that this is the important thing that's going to happen in his life that he can't undo.
Right, and that's one of the things that I've learned just drawing comics and doing animation and stuff over the years is just when there's important moments like that, you really don't need any distracting stuff in the background or the side. So I think Rob and I had a discussion about that too. I was just like, I'm just going to leave this panel blank. Like, there's nothing in the background. We don't really need to focus on anything else. And so, yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Right. Is this slated to be a monthly book, guys?
We're planning it. It's 5 issues, miniseries. And I mean, we'll see how things go. But I mean, honestly, Sam and I have already talked about doing more. I have enough. I see it as a finite story. I think probably, again, we'll see how this goes. But I in the end, I see it as probably 3 5-issue miniseries. But yeah, we'll see.
That's wonderful. Well, excited for people to see it on the stands, open it up for the first time and read it on their own. My recommendation for everybody that's out there, the story pitch itself may seem like Rob and Sam has said that it seems like it's kind of a lighthearted romp about a guy who's just going to destroy technology, but that's, I highly recommend that first issue specifically to sit down and don't have distractions when you're experiencing the art and the writing, because I think it'll make you put it on your pull box immediately so you don't miss them. And this is a reminder to make sure that you do that, because especially now, as print runs get smaller, you don't want to be left behind and have like, okay, well, there weren't enough this week and now the print run is sold out. We don't want you to have to wait a really long time for trade paperback, for example. Just let your local comic shop know. They love doing it. That's what they're here for, and they love hearing that you love the things. And reach out to Rob and Sam and tell them what you think about it after you read it. They don't want to function in a void. They definitely want to hear how you guys love it. And more than just like the numbers look good.
Right.
All right. Where is the right place for everyone to follow you guys to be up to date with what you guys are up to?
My personal website is robguillory.com. I'm on Twitter at Rob_Guillory, and I'm on Facebook at, I believe, Rob Guillory Art. Just look it up. I'm pretty hard to miss. You'll find me.
And my website's just samlotfi.com. And Twitter and Instagram, and my handle is just my first initial S and last name Lotfi, so it looks like @Slotfi. And Facebook is just Sam Lotfi Comic Art.
Perfect. All right, we got a minute left here. Rob, do you have any other projects that you are allowed to talk about they're a little bit farther out?
Well, like I said, there's 5 issues left of Farmhand. That's going to be the end of the story. I'm aiming to get that out by the end of the year. But also, I have a couple other things I'm kind of percolating on. One is an original graphic novel that I'll be writing and drawing. So I can't say where yet. It won't be out probably for another year and a half or so. So it's going to be a good bit, but I'll be working on that as well as Farmhand, and probably throwing Sam more stuff, because I've been trying to get Sam. I've been haunting Sam and stalking him for the past 10 years probably. So I'll be definitely after this throwing him far more things.
You're a friendly ghost, so it's okay.
How about you, Sam? Anything in the projects that people should watch for?
Well, like Rob said, we're currently on Mosely, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more Mosely after that. But I'm also slowly but surely developing an original graphic novel that I'll be writing and illustrating myself as well. So
I'm interested. Super cool. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you both for coming on, and I know everyone that's been watching is super thankful for your time. I know you guys are busy. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here for Talkin' Shop, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same bat channel.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.